Universal Dementia's monthly Lunch and Learn. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit, primarily supported right now by the Detroit Area Agency on Aging. So we want to recognize them and thank them for their support and allowing us to do this work. Those people on the screen are my family. Both my mom and dad had dementia. Mom had Alzheimer's, and dad had vascular dementia. And like you in the room, I was a caregiver. And so I know where you sit, I know how you feel, and our title today for I'm Just Tired came from a caregiver saying to me, I'm just tired. I wish I could leave and not come back. What I appreciated about her was that she was honest about how she was feeling. Some of us won't say how we feel, for real. We just swallow it and choke it down and behave as if everything's great, and you know that you're tired and you burn out. So what we want to do today is spend the time talking about giving strategies, talking about where you are, and I said if we could do a family meeting. Anybody do those? You do family meetings? Where you kind of come together, and some of our families can't have family meetings because we're not as civil as we could be. But we're civil in this space. So we want to have kind of a family meeting talking about this whole thing about I'm tired. I just want to tell you I'm going to sit part of the presentation. I fell, and I tore a ligament in my foot. And so we're now trying to get surgery scheduled. So if I sit down a little more than normal, y'all know, love me anyway, and move up closer if you need to see something else, okay? So let me just start. Has anybody in the room ever said to themselves, I'm just tired? Every day. I'm just sick of it. And you know, some people can't be honest because they're, I love the Lord. And because I love the Lord, I ain't supposed to say that out loud. But you're holding it in. Because if you let it out, then you could acknowledge to yourself that I am burnt out. Because that's what that statement says. I am burnt out. I am just tired. And I understand that from a whole lot of vantage points, but some of us don't, we're not supposed to say it out loud. But you're behaving it by this one woman saying she wanted to leave and not come back. I want you to know, though, the behaviors that your loved ones are presenting, they're normal for a person living with dementia. And I know that some of you like, I know. But, and I said, that's because you burn out. Because if you know that with dementia, certain behaviors come with it, unless you and your mind and your spirit is right, you're going to be tired, you're going to be angry, and if your family's not helping and you really want help, or not assisting you, or if people just assume that you're going to do something just because. When I was, coming through supporting my folks, having been single at that point in time, they just assumed you have more time than anybody else. And so you might as well do it. And you think you're smarter than everybody else. So I'm tired. Talk to me a little bit about I'm tired. What are you tired of? Talk to me out loud. And I'll repeat some of it. And she's just tired of the mood swings. Because someone with dementia, their behavior is such that it can be engaging, friendly, supportive. But the next time, they might curse you out or accuse you of stealing. And that, how does that feel when you're doing everything you can do and somebody accuses you of stealing or cheating on them or something of that nature? Extremely frustrated, absolutely. And you don't have a place to vent it, because you can't, here you are, I have dementia. What you gonna do, yell at me? Well, some of us do. We've done it. Yeah, we've yelled. Some of us had, one lady said, and I went to see her after this, she said, my mama slapped me. I said, don't tell me the next statement. I didn't want to hear that she slapped her back. But you know that, that you feel that frustrated sometimes that you might come to that. But before you come to that and become a person who injures a loved one with dementia or any kind of illness when they're not capable, you have to start taking care of you. Because the issue is, and let me just ask, how many of you did something for you so far today? Everybody in this room should raise your hand, because you're here and you're looking at doing something different. You're having a decent meal. You're going to meet some new people. But how often do you do that for yourself? How often do you take care of you? So these are some of the things I've heard. And you guys add to this list if you have some additional. You wake up stressed. You go to bed stressed. So sleep is supposed to be renewing, right? It's supposed to be supporting you to support you for the day. But if you sleep on edge, like, I got to listen for them to make sure they're okay, or they're going to sneak out of the house, or things that will cause you to feel that way, feeling no joy, and nothing gets you to smile. Again, any of that stuff exists for some of us? A sense of hopelessness. Is this ever, and one young man called me every week and says, when is she going to die? He didn't mean it like that, though. He really didn't. He wasn't sitting there wishing for her to die. He just didn't know the behaviors well enough, what to expect. Because it's important to understand the disease and the cycle of the disease. And he called me also because I became his personal therapist. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, you need to see somebody. Be it a church person, just make sure they love you enough not to tell other people your business. And they don't have to be, again, and you don't not always have to have a third therapist. You have to have somebody you trust. But you trust them enough that they're not going to swirl with you. You all know what I mean? There's some people you talk to and you say, my mother's doing this. Girl, my mama doing this. And I'm doing it. And I got this. And by the time you're both depressed before you end that conversation. You need somebody who has a lifting spirit. A spirit to encourage you. And when you need encouragement, guess what you need to do? Ask for what you need. As good as you are at taking care of your loved one, no one can read your mind. They cannot read your mind. One lady said, I'm just numb. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just numb. I don't know what to feel. I don't know how to act. And it's all those feelings inside that I think is important, overwhelmed with the loss. But what we need to remember is that even though you're frustrated with your loved one, you're also grieving. You guys know what I mean? Let me tell you how you're grieving. You're grieving the loss of a loved one you used to be able to have a good conversation with. You're grieving the loss of a mom or a dad that really helped you make decisions at one point. You're grieving a husband who used to take care of all the bills. I'm wishful thinking on my part. Or you're grieving a wife that serves some very special roles for you. We have to acknowledge the grief. And those of us that are loving on someone living with dementia, it's an anticipatory grief. Every day you see them change. And as you see them change, you grieve a little more. And people say, well, how do you grieve and the person's not dead? You're seeing them change before you every day. And it's important to acknowledge the grief because the grief can be all about burnout. And so I want us to, can we just stop a minute and talk to each other? Anybody having any of the feelings we've been talking about? And just talk out loud for a minute. It's a healthy role to get some of that stuff out in a space where you're safe. And you're very safe here. Anybody who will share with us? Yes, dear.
I heard a term, okay. There was a term that I just recently heard called compassion fatigue. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. And once I looked it up to find out what it meant, I understood it, and it hit the nail on the head for me, because you get burned out, and one of the things you said up there, because you don't really have the love and compassion for other people because you're so drained caring for your loved one. And so my husband recently became a pastor, and so I should show compassion to the people at the church, but I tend to isolate myself because I'm so worn out from caring for my mom. I can't care for the people. And so that kind of goes with that compassion fatigue because I just don't have it to give anymore.
And when you pulling from a bottle that's empty, you don't have anything. I just want to read, first of all, thank you for sharing that. But one of my favorite words is should, and you said it, and I want to just honor this. Sometimes we so mean to ourselves. She just said she's stressed. She just said her compassion is basically gone at this point. And she said, but I should be able to help the church too. I want to stop with, you're here and you're taking a minute to take care of yourself. There's some points in time you don't, anybody ever been to a place where you had no compassion for anybody and you just needed a time out? Which says, honor that you need the time. Thank you for sharing, and know that it's okay and that you can start caring more for yourself. And some of the things we'll do today are strategies for you to learn how to care for yourself. Okay? Somebody else, who wants to share some stuff you're dealing with? How about, you guys want to share a little bit? Mom? I think people are shy. Anybody? Let me tell you one of the things that happened with my mother. And my mother didn't like me very much, probably because we were too much alike. And in the process, my mother would do, the more she lived with her dementia and walked her path as a person living with dementia, the kinder she became. But she went through that phase where she was so mean. I mean, really, really mean. Anybody go through that at this point or experience any of that? And it's like, you're doing everything you can to take care of them. And they're doing everything they can to reject you. But no, it's not them, it's the disease and the stage they're in the disease. And if you keep living, that will transition and the behaviors will change over time. And not everyone goes through the disease the same way. That's what's important to know. You may experience something that I may not. And the beauty of conversation is sharing with each other the things we're dealing with. So some of the things, and that's my sister, my dad, and everything you have in my family. So I need you to start thinking honestly about the loss that you're experiencing and talk to somebody about that loss. In addition to, we miss that two-way engagement. Anybody really getting along, before they got sick, got along really well with your loved one? Okay, tell me something good you guys used to do together. Mom taught her how to gamble. That's great. And so we have these memories. We have these experiences. And we're looking at the person and we're losing them. And too often, I said, sometimes every now and then you just need to sit and reflect on how wonderful this relationship is right now, and you're just not paying attention to it. How's it a wonderful relationship right now, Paula? Because the role has changed, and now you're in the role of caregiver, and some of us just miss being a daughter. We really miss being a daughter. Now we are the person who takes them to the doctor. We're the person that bathes them. We're the person that, anybody, what other roles are you all serving? I'm feeding them, cooking, cleaning. Whoever said it, just everything. And they need you in that capacity. And so as we walk through today, know that people will say, I remember folks saying, you're so blessed. God trusted you in this role. And I said, God needs to stop trusting me so much. There's some days I don't need to be trusted. But that was because I was frustrated. It's because I was tired. And so it's important as we move through this conversation that we talk about those things. So what happens sometime on what we talk about as challenging behaviors, our starting part was the behavior is only challenging for us. It's normal for my loved one. Okay, so let's just be clear. Those behaviors are normal. And the more we talk about it, somebody can tell you how they handled their loved one being angry. Someone could tell you about them getting so quiet they withdrew. They were withdrawing. Some of our loved ones, yes, ma'am. Okay. Mm. Yes.
And she was like, wait a minute, why are you talking to her? Because she's acting like she's 8. So I'm the parent now. You have to adjust once you figure out who you're dealing with and what time frame they're dealing with. That's how I addressed her. And once my aunt had to get comfortable because she's so used, this is my mom, this is a certain respect I have. I get that, but right now she's acting like the 8-year-old that don't want to get up and get dressed and go,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So once she got adjusted to that, and I remember all of these, just everything. But the onsite for my family was when she was accusing me of stuff, and I wasn't even here.
Right. Right. And let me say thank you, because what she said for me is that mom or auntie, right, grandmother's was on her journey of dementia, and depending on which dementia you have, you might see some behaviors versus other behaviors. Some might have hallucinations, and they're real. They're absolutely real for them. Others may have bouts of, let's say, with anger. The thing that's common, and I want to reiterate, which it sounds like you were doing, you have to honor them at every stage, though. That you have to honor them at every stage, because even though my mom had some days where I felt like she was just struggling with just everyday tasks, I had to honor her at whatever she was. Because I think that what people forget sometimes, and I don't know if you saw this, B. Smith, you all remember B. Smith, the cook? B. Smith had dementia, and her husband was seeing another woman. I ain't trying to judge her. I don't have no hell to put you in. But what bothered me is he said, she's not there anyway. So it doesn't matter who takes care of her. But that attitude impacts how you treat them. In my mind, they're in there. They're still inside. They still need you to honor and respect them. And then at those moments where you just out of it, sometimes you have to leave the room. Sometimes you need a tag team person. Sometimes you need to make sure they're safe and go and step out, do some deep breathing, and we'll talk about some deep breathing. And meanwhile, you need to be saying in your head, this is what I'm going to do for me. This is what I'm going to do for me. When you're really stressed, Nina, will you bring me the sheets for grounding? There's a concept called grounding that I want us to deal with, and then we'll go back to this piece. Grounding, have you ever been so mad or so upset that you just couldn't focus? Or so worried or something that you were so strained and strained? Pass it up for the room. I'll take one, please. And Malcolm can help you so we can get them out. I want to teach you a concept of grounding. And Malcolm, there's some green stress balls back there. Would you bring those out too, please? They're in the box, in the bag, or... And I want to give you, because I want to not only talk about issues, express concerns, hear your issues, but also give you some tools. that when you leave that you'll have some things that you can work with. Yes, please. Diane, you can help with that, please. All right. Let me share the concept of grounding. Let me just anchor ourselves together. Can anybody ever acknowledge that you've been so unfocused that you just needed to focus? That something happened and you didn't know what to do? The concept of grounding gives you the ability to refocus. So as you're sitting at your table, be as comfortable as you can. You don't even really need the piece of paper. I'll walk you through it. I want you to do a couple of things for me. And I'm going to put a stress ball in the middle of the table for everybody. So the strategy of grounding says, I need to focus on something else that takes my mind off of this moment, takes my mind off of this place. So as you sit there, I'd like you to do this. You follow my guidance. I'd like you first, just get comfortable, take a really deep breath, and slowly let it out. Okay? And then let it out. Do it again. And let it out. Okay. I'd like you to focus on 5 things you see in this room. I'd like you to name them to yourself. You don't have to, anybody else, don't name it to anybody else. And while you're looking at those things, I want you to breathe. Keep breathing deeply and blowing it out slowly. Breathing deeply and blowing it out slowly. So you're looking at 5 things in the room. You're going to name those things that's in the environment and focus on some details. The color, the shape, possible texture. Okay? The next part of this is I need you to find 4 things you can touch at your space. It could be the ball, it could be a tablecloth, it could be your face. I want you to touch those things and think about how it feels to you. How it feels. Is the surface hard? Is the surface warm? Is the surface what? Whatever. But I need you to focus on 4 things that you can actually touch. And I'd like you to touch them. You might touch your knee or your hair or something that gets you to totally focus on those things. Next, I'd like you to find 3 things that you hear. 3 things you hear in the room. It could be the door closing. It could be the heat sound behind us. It could be the rattling of paper. Meanwhile, you're still breathing. Don't stop breathing. In and out. Identify those distinct sounds. Could be somebody yawning. Whatever. Just pay attention to what you hear. Breathing in and breathing out. I want you to think of 2 things, pay attention to 2 things you smell. And if you don't smell anything, think about something you really enjoy smelling. I love the smell of coffee. I love the smell of fresh baked bread. Something you smell that relates to you. Meanwhile, you're still breathing in and breathing out. And the last, find 1 thing you can taste. Meaning it could be a mouthwash left over from this morning. It could be a piece of chicken left in your tooth. Keep breathing in and breathing out. And I'd like you now to just kind of, 1 last breath, big breath. Breathe in and blow it out. Okay. The purpose of this activity, and you take this with you because this is an activity that when you're starting to feel out of control, it's an opportunity for you to take your mind and focus it. Because sometimes that's all we need to do is refocus our minds. And breathing, because breathing is powerful at relaxing you. One of the things that I've seen with caregivers in particular is that they may hear a noise in the back of the room, in the back of the house. You know there's nobody in the house but you and your loved one, right? You hear a noise, your first reaction is to tense up, rush back to them, and see what's wrong. I say the first thing you do is say to your spirit, let's breathe real deep, and then walk back and say, let me check on whoever we're loving on. But before you walk in the room, stop at the door and scan. Because if it is somebody in there, they're going to get you because you just rushed in. Plus, you brought that energy. Our loved ones play on your energy. We don't realize it. When you get angry, you bring that angry spirit to them, and oftentimes they duplicate us. And so we need to make sure that we relax enough. And if we can't relax, we need to change rooms ourselves. We may need to get on the front porch and breathe a little. And a funny story, one time my father was feeling, not sure what he was feeling, but he didn't want anybody to do anything for him. He enticed the caregiver to the front porch. He walked in the house and locked the door. Well, he was tired of his caregiver. Believe it or not, they have a need for independence too, and sometimes we go the other extreme trying to do too much for them. Because they have capacity, many of them have capacity depending on where they're at in their journey. And so because we want to help, we sometimes do too much. All right, so I want to talk a bit about some of the behaviors that you've seen. You said that what was the one you identified, the behavior? The mood swings. Okay. One that's real common is repetitive questioning or repetitive behaviors. Anybody seen that one? They may ask the same question over and over again. Or they may, as one of the ladies in the room told me, my mother opens up her purse and empties her purse out over and over and over again. Any little things like that, anything to indicate repetitive behaviors for you? Have you seen it? And just a question, is she capable of lighting the fireplace?
Yeah, she has matches like.
Okay, but you've taken the matches away. Okay. Because at some point, you are the person who has to make sure they're safe. And you may have to take that piece of those matches away from them. But repetitive behavior, do you ever wonder why they do that? Anybody have any guesses why they might repetitively do things? Yes, dear. Okay. Soothing. They forget what they're doing. It's a memory they don't remember necessarily. But underneath the behavior, go on, Diane. Oftentimes, there's a message under the message. The behavior is what you see. Underneath what the behavior is, there's usually something wrong. And see, the challenge is us slowing down enough to be with them to find out less about what they're saying, but more about what might be happening for them.
In my mother's bedroom, there's like a little kid thing under the table where the TV is, and my mother was always rambling in that kit. And what I noticed is she would keep her Sunday school books, things that in her memory banks that had meaning to her. She was always fumbling through there trying to find them.
Right.
And then she'll say to me sometimes, Sylvia, you know what, I don't like to be damp. So she'll tear it up trying to find a pull-up. Her mind, it's something how the mind works sometimes with certain things.
Well, the essence of what she said was reinforced it. Mom was wet. And so she started behaving a certain way. She couldn't change herself. So what we ask you to do as we make sure you're taking care of yourself is that you step back and say, what might be wrong right now? What might they want to communicate? There was an example of a family where they took Dad and the family went to dinner, and Dad was living with dementia. At the dinner table, he started pulling his clothes off. Y'all tell me the truth. What would you have done? I mean, before you got real smart and educated. You're going to freak out a little bit, right? Okay, you're at a restaurant, and they pulling their clothes off at the table. Well, this family swooped them up so quick and got them out of there. It's like, oh, my gosh. So they called me, this was Sunday, they called me on Monday and told me what happened. And I said, okay. I said, what was he trying to tell you? They're like, tell me what? I said, go get his shirt and pants from yesterday. So he was pulling off his shirt first. I said, is there a tag in that particular shirt? There was a pin in his shirt, and the pin was sticking him. He did not know how to say anymore. The pin hurts. So what he was doing was what he knew how to do, was pulling his clothes off. So it's important to think about what might they be trying to tell me when those behaviors. One beautician who was a caregiver said her mother was behind her constantly. She said, I couldn't get to a customer because she was on me all the time. And I said, what'd you do? She said, you want me to tell the truth? I said, yes, I do. I yelled at her and made her go sit down somewhere else. I said, at least you're honest. Let me tell you tell me how you might have handled that. They're under you constantly. And I just told you they might need something from me on an unmet need basis. What would you have done? Just kind of go with it. Give her something to distract her. Yep, a distraction. So since I'm a beautician, there's probably a wig here that she could play with, or even comb, or add value with. What else could you have done? Distraction is one of the #1 strategies. Some activity that she could be, because she might have been bored. If you don't have coloring book and crayon, you need it. You need coloring books, you need crayon, you need puzzles, and you can make your own puzzles if you don't have the money to buy them. She said the Dollar Tree.
You possibly need.
Okay, Dollar Tree.
I want some of the little children books, like when they first start.
Yes.
Because he has become nonverbal. So I have him read the children books out loud.
And what I did with my father, I bought those puzzles. You remember the big ones for the little kids, where they're like the pieces is this big? And so with 6 or 8 pieces to it, there are ways to keep them engaged. And distraction, those are all distraction techniques that you can do to support your loved one. But let me say, you have to be in the right mind state to do that. You have to make sure that you're caring for you. And if you are on that list of I can't sleep because every noise I hear I jump, I can't eat, I'm losing weight, all the things that people do when they're stressed out, we have to get that addressed first. And somebody will say, I don't have time for that. What's your response to somebody who says, I don't have time to take care of myself? She said, find time. And see, people think self-care means I got to go to the spa. Come on. You can make your own spa at home. Take 5 minutes just to go to another room and breathe. Ma'am?
That's what I was going to say, but I'm not a caregiver, but sometimes things are on my mind that I can't really do anything about it. I'll just go and start reading my Bible, my Sunday school lesson, or something the pastor preached a couple of Sundays ago. I want to go a little bit more into it, so that calms me down.
Good. Some other things you can do. How many of you have a wake-up process of waking up, how you wake up in the morning? And you do it basically the same way every morning. Somebody said, I don't have time for that. She wake up before me. Then you need to figure out how to wake up 5 minutes before her. There's a way. The way you start your morning influences your entire day. If you start your morning picking up your phone, you already got that light in your eyes, so what I do, I have a mantra that I use. I am loved, I am protected, and I am valued. And that sets a tone for me. I don't know what your mantra would be. And then I stretch, because the older I get, the harder it is to get out of bed without stuff hurting. So I take the time, the first 20 minutes that I'm awake is me focusing on me. Anybody do that? Good. I also will read some scripture, because a good scripture can help make your day. Little things. In the presentation, I prepared a sheet for you. The one that says, I can do all things. And I sometimes say, but I need to stop trying to do all things. But I can do all things. There are other, you say what? She said, I can do all things, but not at the same time. Anybody else have a scripture they use in the mornings, throughout the day?
That app gives you a daily scripture every day.
Okay.
So it changes.
It gives,
every day.
great.
It changes every day.
What were you going to say?
I start with my five senses. I can see, I can hear, I can smell, I can taste, I can touch.
Just wake up and say thank you. I start with thank you.
I start
Like,
with that first.
thank you. The fact that we woke up, it's like, okay.
I mean, what if I couldn't reach out?
What was that you said?
I start with my five senses. I can see, I can hear, I can smell, I can taste, I can touch.
That's wonderful. And one of the things I added to mine is I know what day it is, and I know what time it is. My parents didn't know what day it was or what time it was. So it was just something little for me. But that was so important to me to know that today is, what is today? No, today is Thursday, and you know it. That's what's important. Today is Thursday, and you know it. And they may not have the capacity anymore. Also, repetitive behaviors are one of the things that, I'm going to skip one of these because, so caregivers, who do you care for first?
Yourself.
Okay, I want to make sure make sure you hear yourself saying that to yourself. Okay? Because we can say it and still not do it.
Right.
Okay? So I want to go to, go backwards.
I'm gonna say the best reminder is probably when you get on an airplane and they give you that security instruction and they talk about that oxygen mask. Who do you put the oxygen mask on first?
That's absolutely
Put
right.
it on yourself first, then you can help whoever's sitting next to you. Otherwise you pass out.
One of the things that's important under repetitive behaviors is that sometimes you just need to simply be present. Sometimes there's nothing required of you except being present. And one time I was with a family and the loved one with dementia was doing something. I just engaged her. I said, what you doing? And she says, I'm looking for such and such. I'm like, really? Can I help you look? I have engaged them with respect. I have engaged them with love. And I want to help them find whatever they were looking for. But what I soon did was took her mind off of what she was looking for and started doing an activity, as you all have already told me is a good way to distract. So distraction in a whole lot of ways are important for your loved one. But I wanted to emphasize here, when it comes to mood, because my loved one is upset, and that's a stimulus, right? I mean, you got up, they fussing already. You barely got your eyes open. And so what happens is energy starts bubbling up in you, and that's your response. Is that what caused your reaction? Did their behavior cause your reaction? Talk to me. Did the behavior cause your reaction? You say yes. And I say no. Well, A and C. The stimulus was the behavior. The response was, my response was to get angry, upset, stressed. What happened in the middle was your interpretation of it, your anger about the situation, your grief you might be feeling. It's all of that unresolved stuff that we have to acknowledge, because that's what's causing your reaction. It might be your disappointment in them. It might be your anger that your loved one's changing. So because I have a stimulus, I don't have to respond angry. Somebody gonna challenge me? And just talk out loud. I'm sorry? What'd you say? Yes. And you're just saying out loud what many of us have experienced. Everybody in this room could say that statement. And we pray for patience, but meanwhile we find ways to relax. We find ways to understand the disease more, because the more you understand the disease, the more you can help control your reaction. We ask you to start trying to heal yourself, and I think that would be a great topic. Healing yourself, because each of us has some pain that's unresolved. And that pain then dictates our behavior. I just want you to think about it. Just think about that the next time you react and say, what's really causing this reaction? And it could be, I'm just disappointed that we're at this place in our lives and my loved one's changing in this manner. And that is really sad. Me and my mother argued all the time. And you know what I miss most about her? My arguments. I miss that. I miss that I don't have that person. Me and my father was just wise. And I would go for him for counsel. What I miss from him is him always having insight into what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. So you miss things about people, and this didn't necessarily have to do with dementia. We miss people that have died in our lives, and we need to be making sure that we handled that too. Okay? So write down. Can I get the green journals, please? I want to give each of you a journal, a little journal, because journaling is a really good way of getting stuff out. And nobody has to see it, so the grammar doesn't have to be right. If you can't spell, don't worry about it. I can't either. I do speed writing. A good excuse for not being able to spell. So it's important that this little journal we're giving you is that you start talking to yourself and encouraging your own spirit and finding ways to take care of you through journaling. Journaling gets that stuff out your head, because if you don't have a way to express it, because some of us are talkers. Who are the talkers in the room? All right, how many of you are really quiet and you don't really share your stuff with anybody? Well, you make sure you take that journal and talk to yourself and get that stuff out and get it out. Write this down in your journal. I hope you have a pen. When I talk about repetitive behaviors, I want you to do D as David, E as in Edward, C. D, E, C. After you've grounded yourself, because the grounding piece related here, we need you to distract them, to engage, and connect. And if you need a pen, let us know. We've got some in the bag. What were the 3 things I asked you to try and do at this point? Right. Distracting with some activity, as you have said, or talking to them to find out how they're doing. My mother used to have, and I'll talk about this in more detail, imaginary friends that would visit. And guess what? Me and them imaginary friends had some good conversations if they were good people. Okay? So if you're in a repetitive behavior situation, pay attention to simply be present. Pay attention to your own grounding. And I need you to DEC, distract, engage, connect. Questions on that or anything?
I guess it is a question that it's important for caregivers to have a close, dependable friend or person that they can confide in,
Yes.
and that they can say sometimes that, will you just pray for me?
Yes.
I can get through this situation.
Right.
I had a cousin who's passed on now, but she had a son who lived with her, and when
Right.
You know, I would go to visit him frequently, and sometimes when I ring the doorbell and he come to the door, he called me Aunt.
Okay.
He said, Aunt Thelma, I'm so glad you're here because I need to get away a while. My mama just keeps fussing at me about this, that, or whatever, you know.
And I wish he had somebody around him who had said, that's a very common characteristic. You need a break. Let me tell you some strategies on how to do it. I'm going to pray for you. But God gave us more than prayer. He gave us some skills. So I agree with you. And I think I would have told him he needs a DEC. Again, little ways. Because it's important that you have some tools in your toolbox. And prayer for me is the ultimate prayer. But please don't, I know this is going to sound funny. I don't ask people to pray if they don't believe their own prayers. There are too many people that say, you ask them like, how many, I did this the other day. I say, what prayer came through for you recently? And they laugh. But you know what? Ask people to pray. Tell the church to pray for you. The thing that a church, they don't even know you're a caregiver necessarily. What if you told somebody at the church and you're on the prayer list that I'm a caregiver and I need this kind of support? And see if you can get that assistance. Because you do need a trusted person to talk to. You can do that in a support group. We offer support groups. There are a lot of places in the city that offer support groups. Join a support group. If nothing more, you're with other people like you that are dealing with the same things, and you can vent, and before our session is over, you vent, but then, okay, now let's talk about strategies. Venting is great, but you also need to have some ideas of what to do next, okay? So yes, ma'am, that is really important, yes.
It's a lady at my church that for a long time she would walk up to me and say, "Oh, you look tired. Oh, you losing weight." I don't know. Maybe that was her way of caring or letting me know that I was changing. And so
You say it didn't feel like it though.
I'm like, was that a compliment? You look tired. Yeah, I'm not sleeping. And so I didn't want to be cynical with her.
Right.
How do you respond to people who just say things? I think they don't understand the caregiving aspect.
I think there are a couple of things. They don't understand the caregiving because you don't really know what it's like to stay up all night trying to get rest and the person is walking and pacing the house all night. You don't really know what it's like until you set that in that seat. That's the beauty of having other people around you who understand. Let me go here and then I'm going to go back there. Yes, ma'am.
He is actually being woke all night.
Okay.
Going, opening up the doors. I bought bells and things, you know, but I'm not getting any sleep. And he goes out the door, he don't walk away. He goes and get in the car and he sits there.
Okay. And we should, again, some of these strategies might be, like she has bells, which is good. Some kind of way that if you have a person that wanders, because did you know wandering often relates to someone who was an active person in their lives? Very active. My father was a walker. Every day he got up and walked. And guess what happened when he had dementia? He wanted to walk. Well, we tried to lock him in the house at first, but so what we did is we put a place in the backyard, cleared a space where he could walk. Or we go for a walk with him, because as a caregiver, you need exercise too. So it's important that you find strategies that can work for you and them. What were you going to say, dear?
Back on what she was saying, when you tell people you're tired, you've been up all night, well, poor baby, what are you doing?
Right.
You should get some rest.
Yeah, they say that.
Did you see her expression?
You should get some rest.
Right. Well, let's go with this. I want to go with what's in the room. What kinds of things could we do to get some rest? First of all, we have a loved one who is requiring a lot of time and attention. Sleep when they sleep. Especially if you're there, the full-time caregiver, sleep when they sleep. Somebody said, well, I don't like sleeping in the day. I said, then that means you ain't getting no sleep. You have to, if you have taken on this role and you decided to do it, no one's twisting your arm, because most of us aren't getting paid. Most family caregivers are not paid. You're doing it out of love or obligation, or nobody else would do it. It's somewhere in there, somewhere in between those. So you can sleep when they sleep. What else? Yes, ma'am.
The oldest things we want to make sure their environment from going to sleep. So keep the lights low. I'm a techie girl, so I say get the smart lights, because if you get the smart lights, you can change the color, you can change the dim. You can have a little bit more fun with it, but at least if it's dim, like if they're ready for bed, make sure the room is dimly lit. That TV is a disruption. You can get some scents like lavender, chamomile. If you're into essential oils, diffuse lavender. Lavender is my number one go-to for my clients.
Mine too.
Because it will relax, boom, just knock them out. It just gives you in a nice relaxing state. You could play
Music.
relaxing music.
Music.
Sometimes a certain generation,
Right.
that jazz, old school jazz, makes a huge difference. Or put on your phone, the sound waves,
Right.
we got so much other stuff than what we had when my grandmother was alive. It's like, oh, this would have made a huge difference there.
Yes.
But just try to set the tone, try to, make it conducive, because like I said, if they're up, if they think it's up, if every light on is in the house, they think everything is up. Make it dark.
And so what you're starting to do is, the brain is, remember that dementia is a brain disease. And what you're doing is tricking the brain. Because each of us has a clock in our head that tells us what time we're supposed to go to sleep. Remember now, my clock's off. So we used to prepare the room by starting to turn the lights down dimly, doing it slowly. We would not give them caffeine at certain points, and caffeine includes chocolate. And so I want to make sure, so we started preparing them for bed. And if they were someone who really liked to have baths, we gave them a sponge bath at night, because sometimes baths can be challenging all by themselves. So we started looking for things that they enjoyed. And my mother's favorite song was Amazing Grace. I had it on playback over and over until she fell asleep. But I also knew from my mother that she would get cold. So I always had an extra blanket. And because you just need to know your loved one and see what things you can do. And sometimes, let me be clear, sometimes this stuff works and sometimes it don't. So we just got to keep doing the things we can do as we move forward, okay? So good, thank you for those ideas. Other people have any other ideas? Some people say warm milk. I don't know. They say they give them something warm before they go to bed. That wouldn't work for me. That is, in one of the sessions, we have a masseuse come in and teach you three strategies for touch. And we use the lavender oil to talk about how lavender and what it does for the body, help you relax. Massages are very effective in helping them. But it depends on the loved one. And I tell people, make sure you're massaging a person whose skin is thinner than yours, who don't do it if they have an open sore. Things you have to pay attention to to being a masseuse. And remember, you're not a masseuse. I'm going to do very light, gentle things. I'm not trying to do what a professional would do. Just light, gentle touching. And do you know what? We have found out that our loved ones, that babies get 100% of touch, right? Everybody touches a baby. And they goo-goo and gaga. They make us stupid. Then, by the time they're teenagers, they get 50% less touch. And by the time they're older adults, they get virtually none. They're touch deprived. We normally touch them when we have to bathe them or do some tasks with them. What about some basic hand touching? Some basic connecting? That's good. And you're including her or him in the prayer process. All right, let me just keep going for a couple more minutes. Let's talk about, I want you to know that there are 4 things that they will accuse you of. If you haven't been accused of these things, know that you'll probably get it. And remember hearing me say, they will probably accuse you of these things. 1, they will accuse you of taking their stuff. You took my money, you hid my purse, you did this, and the issue was they're losing that stuff themselves. So what I did with my mother and her purse, because she lost her purse all the time, I bought her 4 of the same purse. So anytime she lost it, I found it. I found your purse. I'm the hero now because I found the purse. And my dad liked his wallet because he liked looking in his wallet for the money. And I said, okay, that's an independence issue. I put play money in his wallet. He couldn't tell the difference. But he was very satisfied when he opened up his wallet, and it was full, too. I had $100 bills, and you know you could make $1,000 bill. So, and it was for him. You did that for him and for you. Yes, ma'am.
I found out how bad off he was into that, not really realizing that it's dementia. Last year, he lost a wallet with $800.
Wow. And those of you that know this, once you accept that the loved one has dementia, start start paying attention to who's around them, because everybody around you don't love you. Pay attention to how much money they have, or how much you give, or how much you put in their wallet. For a while there, as I say, they'll accuse you. But this is probably early on in the disease. As you progress, they'll be less concerned about it. But they're still fairly cognizant when they're looking at how much money's in my wallet. The next one is that they accuse you of poisoning them. That medication, I ain't taking that. I ain't taking that. You're trying to kill me. You just want my house. All right? I was accused. My mother accused me of trying to poison her. So what I ended up doing, because she needed the medication, I put everything that could be opened up in applesauce. Check with your doctors on what medications can be opened. Not every medication should be opened because they're time released. Pay attention if they're not taking their medicines, and part of it might be they're scared. Remember, behaviors and reactions are telling us something underneath the behavior. I want you to all, if you don't get anything, know that there's something else they're trying to tell us. All right, the third thing is that you're cheating on me. Working with the family now, the husband is being accused of having a woman upstairs. He said, I'm too old to even have this woman. What I'm doing with a woman upstairs? So his first reaction was, he took his wife upstairs to show her there was nobody up there. What do you think she said? Come on. You hiding her. You hid her. You told her when she was coming. So the issue is that, know that that's something. But again, people who respond like that you may have had some history of cheating, and it's coming out. Either way, she might have cheated or he might have cheated. And remember, stuff comes up and out now. Where the other thing is, at one point, they had a filter. Everybody in here has a filter for proper behavior, correct? You know how to act. Some of us don't even curse in public because we know how to act. Once that filter has been destroyed in my brain, it's coming up, it's coming out. So it's not personal towards you. It's the freedom that you now experience of saying what they really think and feel. But again, something's other it. The fourth one is you're holding them prisoner. You won't let me out of this house. You're making me stay in here. You won't let me go. You're just holding me here. Don't make sense, and I can't stand it. I just want you to know those in case you see them, and then you think to yourself, Dr. Duren says, what might they be feeling? What's underneath the behavior? And then let's go from there. How can I distract? What was it? Distract? And connect. All right? All right, other things so in your journal, sometimes you just need to stop and write. And every now and then, just stop writing. Just put down everything in your head. And at the end of it, you say, whew, that felt good. Nobody else is going to read it. Hopefully you don't leave it. All right, let's talk about hallucinations, and I know that I'm about out of my time. Any of your loved ones experiencing any hallucinations? They're seeing things, they're feeling things sometimes. My mother had, I told you, imaginary friends. And in her imaginary friends was Miss Johnson. And Miss Johnson was the lady who lived next door. And they would visit all the time. And so Miss Johnson died, though. And you know when they say Miss Johnson, too many people say, you know they did. Please don't do that. Or say, Miss Johnson died 6 months ago. And then some of them re-experienced the pain of Miss Johnson's death. When my mother used to say, where's Miss Johnson? I said, oh, no, she might be coming over later. The nice thing about dementia, they ain't gonna remember that you told them that. And that's important. Don't give them that kind of information. So I would do this. If the people that my mother was seeing were friendly, I would engage them and invite them to stay. But if they were mad and mean, I had the ability to banish them from the house. I'm like, Ma, we can't have that kind of spirit in the house today. Let's make her go home. And so imaginary friends might have been she was lonely. It might have been something other than or she missed Miss Johnson. You never know, but I said, look underneath the behavior and pay attention to what's underneath behavior. And I want to give you another one. This one's RAV. When a person is hallucinating, I need you to reassure them because they're probably scared. I need you to acknowledge, acknowledge that they see something. Don't tell them they don't see it. If they say that wall is green, what you supposed to say? That's a beautiful green wall. Now, what does it matter if it's green or white? It doesn't matter at all, does it? And then the last one is to validate. So you reassure, you acknowledge, and you validate. Suppose my loved one says to me, there's something crawling on my skin. All right? And you look at it and you don't see nothing crawling. What do? She said, hit it and get him off of her. I got lotion because she might have misunderstood me hitting her, but I understand what you're saying. I said, Ma, this is that special lotion. This lotion get rid of spiders. Does it? Yes, ma'am, it gets rid of spiders. Look, yours are gone. I had to reassure. I acknowledged that it was real for her, and I validated it and made her feel comfortable. Okay? So, questions on anything so far? Go ahead.
It was difficult for me in the beginning to get in their world of make-believe. As an adult, we don't live in make-believe, we live in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Making the switch into this world of make-believe, I resisted it for 6 months, and I was so worn out from it.
I know.
And now I am the biggest, I would make stuff up along with her, and we have full conversation about absolutely false information.
That's great. People tell me, because I'll come over and visit your loved one, and they'll say, they don't talk to nobody else. That's because I'm okay talking whatever they talking. I'm there just like they are, because that's their experience and it's real. And the research calls it creative fibbing. Because some people say, I don't lie to my mama. I'm like, you lied all the time you were growing up. Don't start that nonsense now. So what you do is you're creative fibbing, and that I'm sharing information, I'm connecting to her, and I'm validating her experience. Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you. What is it?
It's an organization here in Detroit that really helped my mom navigate my grandmother's journey in dementia. So when my mom suddenly passed away, my aunt, it's called, it's Henry Ford's Center for Senior Independence.
Okay.
It is a program where I swear they came, when my grandmother got accepted to this program, it was an adult
Evaluations.
on Outer Drive and Southfield Freeway.
Yes.
They took over transportation. If my grandmother needed a nurse to get her ready, the nurse would come and get her ready.
Right.
Grandma was in a safe space from 8 to 3 p.m. When she got dropped off.
That's probably PACE.
I think
It's probably PACE.
I don't know who it was, but it was a
It
godsend.
And I'd like you all to know there are a number of different programs, and if you're looking for programs, there are programs like PACE, which covers their physical health. They give you day programs. There's some requirements around how much money you make, eligibility income requirements. There's also the Hannon Center, which is a day program if you're looking for someone in Detroit that can provide support. It's they've got a good program there. Alzheimer's Association provides respite support and assistance, because I can't end this session without saying I have to focus the last couple of minutes on you. Because I didn't get through all of it, but I want you to know, if you are a believer in anything, hold on to your faith. Don't let it go. And it doesn't have to be, whatever it is you believe, I think anything you believe in can work. Did they pass out that sheet that I have up here? Yes. Anybody have anyone? Okay, I gave you the sheet. I believe, but I help my unbelief, because that's what we say all the time. No weapon formed against me should prosper. All things are working for my good. And sometimes all you need to do is read something to help you feel better. I have the ability to conquer this day. Caregiving has been laid at my door, and I'm going to not let it manage me. I'm going to do the best I can to move forward with it. And then lastly, hope is the vehicle that keeps us moving. If you feel like you're losing hope, I recommend go see a therapist. I know that in our community we're not necessarily comfortable with that. Come see me first, and we can help you make a referral to a therapist. And your healthcare system provides support, so if it's a Henry Ford or DMC, who have I missed? Accessions, but
DAAA? Was it DAAA?
the Detroit Area Agency on Aging, which is our partner, has all kind of resources to help you out. And so we encourage you to utilize the resources. And I want to also say to you, I just want to end on one thing, a quick summary. We have a boot camp coming up. It's a caregiver boot camp. It's in April. It's a full day of training on dementia. We feed you, we give you tools to use when you leave there. If you want to join us, we've got a list in the back. Join us. Give us your information. And no matter how small a step you make, let me end this saying, make the step. Make the step. And make sure you're caring for yourself. And I want everybody in the room to do one thing for me. Tell me one thing you're going to do for yourself. One thing this week. And see, people think when we talk about creating practices, caregiving practices, as we said, you don't have to do nothing big. It can be very small. So somebody, you want to start one thing. Organize your room is important because a disorganized space can sometimes represent disorganization in your spirit. I need to do that too. So I'm going to finish this with you as you do the evaluation. Somebody else tell me one thing you're going to do for yourself. Yes, ma'am.
I'll probably go look at the new play out at the music hall. I hope it's fun.
Okay, she's going to go to a comedy play because laughter is powerful. It's powerful. And it reduces your stress. Somebody else. Come on, y'all. Let's get this.
More sleep.
I'm sorry?
More sleep.
He's going to get more sleep by figuring out how not to worry so much. And I gave you a grounding activity. There are all kind of relaxation activities that are online that can help you too. All right. I'm going to end this so that they can stop recording, and then you and I can talk about anything else. We invite you to our next monthly Lunch and Learn. Please join us. It's here. And this is March, April, and I think it's April 6th. But it's the first Thursday of the month. We have some kind of event. Next month, we're going to talk about death and dying and loss. So it's also anticipatory loss. But at some point, your loved one is going to pass. And you need to prepare for that. And some of our loved ones have passed, and we still haven't grieved. So we want to spend some time with that. Questions on anything? Why don't we end this ferment and say thank you very much. And I'm going to sit and answer any questions that people might have on anything. Any questions? Yes.
I can remember my mom, more often than not,